So can we talk just for a minute about perfectionism? I don't know if this applies to you, but a lot of people, myself included, often approach things like, if I can't be great at it, I'm not going to do it. And that's just not the way the world has worked. And through thousands and thousands and thousands of years, humans have not been perfect. And they haven't done it no matter how hard they've worked toward it. If you look back hundreds and hundreds of years ago, there was a field called alchemy. And people believed that if they were just to be able to work metals a certain way, they'd be able to turn any base metal into gold. And these guys were paid grundles of money by kings and different rulers to be able to have their staff alchemists, which is really insane if you think about it, because nobody ever did it. So it was actually a pretty high profile and fancy and respected job to have, to be the alchemist. Now, the goal of the alchemist was to turn anything into gold. And they were able to be sustained for a long time until eventually science came out and said, hey, guess what? That doesn't happen. And that industry died. So can we just have that moment right now when it comes to human perfectionism? It's never happened. It's never happened. Now, we're going to separate theology, okay? So we're not talking about if you have any deities in your life that have achieved perfection. We're talking about humans who, for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, have not been perfect. Not a single one of them. So, if you're living your life frustrated that you're not perfect, you're essentially arguing that reality is that people can be, which they can't. So that's why I always say, let's focus on most days. Most days, I don't indulge my sugar addiction, or most days, I work my Sugar-Zen program, rather than am I all on or am I all off? Perfectionism is really the enemy of doing anything. Perfectionism is the enemy of really expressing who we are, because if we're trying to control every aspect to make sure it's perfect, we end up having a really stilted, closed way of interacting with the world. It's inherently risky to be alive. It's risky to come out and talk to each other and try to engage with each other, or to be vulnerable with each other. That risk is essential to really experience and milk out of being human all the good stuff that's part of being human and part of growing and becoming wiser. So spend a little time today thinking about the alchemy of perfectionism and how believing in the lie that you should be perfect, not just that you could, both of them are lies. You shouldn't be perfect, and you can't, and that's great, because being human is flawed and broken and difficult and challenging, and there's ups and there's downs, and that's just what being human is. And facing that reality can be a great relief. It's not an excuse. It's not complacency. You're not going to just get more lazy just because you realize you can't be perfect. You now have room to be the best you. And you don't have to hold that to some external standard of perfection. You can be your wonderful God-given self in its best possible form, like any other flower or animal or natural phenomenon. So think a little bit today about how you approach perfectionism and recognize it's entirely alchemy.